Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us. As we're getting started, if you could do me a favor and put in the chat where you're calling in from. Give it a few minutes for people to join. For those of you just joining, go ahead and put in the chat where you're calling in from. And also maybe let us know, is this your first master class? Put a 1 if you've been more than once, or tell us, how many times you've come. That'd be helpful feedback too while we're getting started. All right. Happy Friday, everybody. I think we'll go ahead and get started. It's 1 minute past. So thanks everybody for joining me. Let me know, can somebody type in the chat if you can see my screen? I'm flying solo today, so I could use some help if you could let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So, our objective, why we do these master classes, is because we hear that there is a lot of challenges in the NetSuite ecosystem. Obviously, NetSuite's a great tool, but there's just still a lot of areas. And the most common thing that we hear is, I don't know what I don't know. I'm not a NetSuite expert. So our goal for doing these sessions is to really try to just, gain insights, help give back to the ecosystem, and help people get the most out of their investment in NetSuite. Let's keep going. So agenda today, right? We'll do a quick overview about ScaleNorth, who we are, and then we'll jump right into the class itself. What you'll learn here today, we're going to go through customizing entry forms, trying to simplify data entry. We'll show how to add, remove, and reorganize some fields, how to configure various field types, defaults, and validation, and how you can kind of personalize some of your tabs and navigation. We're going to kind of demonstrate use cases through each one of those topics. So hopefully you'll kind of see it visually to help better understand. And then we'll get into a live Q&A. So that's the agenda. Just introductions about ourselves. Like I said, my colleague Charles, who's normally with me, couldn't be here today. He's celebrating his son's 21st birthday. So I'll be flying solo today, but my name is Dean Carazza. I'm a CPA, have about 15 years of experience. I've done both public and private accounting. Have about 9 years experience in the NetSuite space, 7 here at ScaleNorth as a consultant, and then prior 2 years as an assistant controller for a $100 million Samsung distributor is where I actually got most of my first hands-on experience to NetSuite. So I've kind of done the consulting and private practice side of things, and have quite a bit of industry experience in manufacturing, e-commerce, professional services. NetSuite kind of covers most industries and verticals. So ScaleNorth, as well as myself, have pretty good exposure to most industries. So just wanted to tell you about us. A little bit about our team, right? You kind of see it here in a snapshot by the numbers. We are the largest exclusive NetSuite provider in North America. All we do is NetSuite. That's all we do. We don't do other ERPs. We're up to almost over 300 consultants. And I think what kind of really differentiates us compared to the space, we have 9.5 years average experience in NetSuite, which is pretty extensive, I think, relative to the space. And then the biggest differentiator is over half of our staff are CPAs. As I mentioned, I'm a CPA as well. Reason why we found that to be helpful is typically in the ERP space, usually mostly tech heavy. So we try to bring that blend of tech and finance, which kind of really helps nail down business requirements and make sure that we're, getting our stakeholders and clients what they need out of the system. So that's a little bit about our team. The services that we offer, we could be your one-stop shop for all things NetSuite, right? We sell NetSuite, we implement NetSuite, we provide fractional accounting services off of NetSuite. We provide MSPs and enhancement and support type services on NetSuite as well. And then we also have a fully dev team here that basically can support integrations, customization, script, workflows, you name it. We have partnerships with Celigo and Boomi and most of the other middlewares out there. So we have a fully stacked tech team as well to support. So again, that's just a little bit of our services at a glance. And then here I kind of mentioned some of them, but this is not the complete list, but we obviously in the NetSuite ecosystem, we've partnered ourselves with some of the best tech partners in the space. So, getting live with NetSuite usually is the first step, but as you start to expand your business and grow, you usually need to fold in other applications as needed. So we partnered with some of the best practice tech partners in the space. So getting through that, let's go ahead and give a disclaimer here that the purpose of this class is for demonstration and educational purposes, right? So if you want to try to follow along or try to apply any of the concepts that you learn in these courses, it's recommended that you do it in a sandbox environment. If you have a sandbox, we have to disclaim that we cannot be held responsible for any actions not taken by ScaleNorth. So just want to get that general disclaimer out there. And then additionally, a few months ago, we've actually become CPE eligible. So our courses are certified for CPE credit. So if you're a CPA or somebody who needs CPE credit and you want those for coming to these classes, all you have to do is basically, be engaged during the session. And we do that by launching 3 polling questions throughout the session. And then there's a survey at the end. So as long as you've completed the 3 polling questions in the survey, we'll reach out and get you your certificate if you're interested. So I think that covers our housekeeping. Another housekeeping item as well is as we're going through it, if you have any questions, this is a webinar type format, so please put your questions in the Q&A section. If you put them in the chat, it could get lost. So if it happens, we'll try to check the chat and the Q&A, but best practice is if you have some questions that you want to ask, just put them in the Q&A. And with that being said, we'll start off with our first polling question. Let me see if I could go ahead and launch that. All right, so the first one is how long have you been using NetSuite? I'll give it a sec for folks to respond. Looks like the majority are falling in the 2 to 4 year range, and then pretty even on the under a year or more than 5 years. So, okay, so most people are relatively newish to NetSuite. Yeah, it looks like it's pretty much settled right there. So 41% are 2 to 4 years, 32% is greater than 5 years, and 25% less than a year. All right, so thanks for filling that out, and we'll keep moving. I'll end the poll now. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get into the class. So again, how to make some native customizations in NetSuite to your forms and such. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So the first thing that we're going to show is customizing some entry forms. What we're going to show specifically is how you can restrict a form to or make it preferred for a specific role. We'll look at maybe hiding some subtabs that aren't needed. And then we'll also look to reduce some fields. Maybe you don't need every field on a form. That's what we're going to show. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this screen. Do that. And you should hopefully see NetSuite. Can somebody type in the chat if you can see NetSuite okay? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So like we said, that's what we're going to try to jump into to start. So what I'm going to show is actually bringing up a customer form. So if we go to list, relationships, customers, they're going to go new. And give us a little sec. It's a little slow because this is a demo environment. So this loads a customer record, and you can see here in the drop down, there's all kinds of forms available. I tried to reset this back to the native NetSuite form the best I can. There's still some fields that show up, but to show what it would look like if we really just kind of reset this to a native setting, I'll select this form here. So you can see for a customer form, this is already fairly brief, but there may be some fields on here and some sub tabs on here that we don't need. Like maybe we don't need the marketing tab or the custom tab to show for our users. Maybe we can get rid of the fax field, right? I don't know who uses the fax nowadays still, so maybe we don't necessarily care about that too much. So we're going to show kind of some of the steps that we go through to get there. So if I go to the form that we customized a bit, so here's the modified form, and then hit customize to actually bring up this form in an edit view, we'll kind of take a look at some of these settings. Come on, NetSuite, we don't got all day. All right, that was painful. All right, so here we go. So this is the form now if I was in edit mode. And, the first thing that I think we wanted to show was maybe we want to restrict this form as we're going to start making edits and changes to it. Maybe we want it to be a preferred form for only a specific role or roles that we want. So over here on the role sub tab, you can kind of check which roles you want this to be the preferred form for. So down here, I've said, we'll just make this form available as the preferred form for the CFO role. So you're kind of able to control who uses what roles use which form as their preferred form. So that was the first change that we made is by selecting it on a role basis. Then the next change that we were going to make is, there's a lot of sub tabs on a form. You see how many are here. Luckily, if there's no data on these, even though a lot of them are checked, they're not going to show up if there's nothing on them. But the ones that were showing up that I thought, hey, maybe we don't really need that for our sales team or for our customers, is we'll unshow the marketing sub tab, and then I can also unshow the custom sub tab. So the native form came with it all checked. I'm kind of now going and unchecking what I don't want, right? So that was a change that we made. And then the next thing that's looking at sub tabs. The next thing we were going to do is, hey, maybe there's certain fields that I don't need to display or show. So if we come over here to the field sub tab, pretty simple again, all these things are kind of enabled. You can go through and uncheck the ones that you don't want to show. So the ones that we purposely unchecked were this default order priority. And then also again, fax number. I don't know if people are still collecting fax numbers or not. So I just picked those two for demonstration purposes to unshow. So now that we've made just some quick modifications and settings to our form, we can actually go see those now reflected if we are to enter basically another customer. So let's do that. And you see it's defaulting to my form now. And then I can see some of those changes were made. So the fax number is no longer here in the email, phone, and address contact information. And then the default order priority list field has also been hidden. And then we can see I no longer have a marketing sub tab or a custom sub tab showing on this form because we hit them. and then we hid those fields as well. So pretty basic. I know a little underwhelming, but again, if you don't have a lot of experience kind of messing with forms or editing forms, this is still kind of a good foundational and fundamental, introduction to it. So I think that touches on what we wanted to show there. So up next, we will pause and go to our next polling question. So let me launch that now. Okay. Back. All right, here goes the next polling question, if you can help us out. So if you can't see, I'm not going to stop sharing screen, but the question is your experience with basic customizations. Number one, never customized form or fields before. Two, you've tried simple customizations to add or remove fields. Three, I configure defaults and validation rules. Or four, I personalize tabs and navigation extensively. So it looks like vast majority have tried simple customizations. So we'll just give it a little bit longer to fill out this polling question. And thank you for your participation. And while that's going, I'll see if I can maybe take a look at the Q&A. So one of the questions that while this is still going that came up is, do you have to be an admin to be able to do that sort of customization for the roles at least? Admin is the easiest way because it has full access. So usually, just inherently, if you're making these type of changes and stuff, you probably do have admin access. But I do believe you can pare down an admin role to not be a full admin and still allow these type of configurational changes and stuff. So the answer is no, you don't have to be an admin, but somebody would have to modify a role to be a level down from admin to still allow you to do most things. Hopefully that answers the question there, Wes. Okay. And then the next one, will the new AI be able to tell us where exactly something is at on the form edits to change things? I struggle sometimes because I know I want something to go away or be added. That's a good question. I don't know about specifically from an AI perspective. There is a setting that allows you to use global search to find things where things are showing on a form. So I think I have that enabled from the last section, but I think if I go account manager, you see it's telling me a field, and if I click on that, it's going to start blinking where that field is on the form. So I don't know if that's kind of what you're referring to, getting some help to find where fields are at. You can also use the old school Control F and also try the same thing, and it will kind of find where that text is populating. So those are the two tricks that I'm aware of. Hopefully that answers that question. Okay. Those are two good questions in the Q&A. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for filling out the second polling question. I'll go ahead and end that poll. Okay. All right. So we'll keep moving. So up next, we're going to show how to add some different types of fields and move things around a bit. So specifically, we're going to create a few different fields. There's already one field called annual revenue right here. This came installed through, I think, the Suite Success version of this bundle. And then we added four more custom fields that we'll walk through. So we'll look at a sales notes field, an account manager field, DUNS number field, and a strategic account field that we're going to add to our customer record as we kind of build it out. So to show you these fields and as they were created, I'm going to go to customization, list, let's see, entity fields, because we're on a customer record, right? So these would be entity level type fields. If I right click and open that in a new tab, here's all the different fields out here. So taking a look at the first one, which was sales notes, you can see that this is a rich text field. So it allows us to kind of literally do like bullet points and formatting and bolding and things like that, which can be helpful at times. This applies to a customer record because this is for our customer form. And then if we look at the display tab, I'm going to put this on the main sub tab of the form. And I think let's go to validation and defaulting. So here you can see if you want, because this is a rich text box field, you can choose if you want validation on like check spelling, so like spell check. So I went ahead and checked that box so that as users are typing in this box or interacting with it, it will underscore it red if something's, misspelled, which is helpful because I don't know about you, but I type super fast and usually don't get things right on the first try. So that's a helpful setting as well. Then we can take a look at the next field that we did, which was account manager. So this field is a real helpful field because if you want to reference an already existing record in NetSuite, you can. So we labeled this as account manager, like who owns this customer account, who's the manager. The type for the field is list record. So I'm going to reference an already existing list or record set, which in this case, I'm hoping one of my account managers should be somebody who's an employee at my company. So the list record would be employees. And then we'll go ahead and store the value, and it applies to a customer record. And then again on the display, we put this on the main sub tab. And then on the validation and defaulting, let's see, on the sourcing and filtering, this is really helpful because, I may not want to have to select from all of my employees. So if there's another flag or field or way to indicate who you'd want to filter down the list for, you can kind of filter. So I'm gonna use the sales rep as the source list. So I'm only going to look at employees who are a sales rep. And then the field that I'm going to filter off of is sales rep checkbox checked. So by doing that, you'll see when we show it that when I select an account manager, it's only going to show me employees who are sales reps. So I'm kind of shrinking down the results so I don't see all employees in my list. All right. And so we talked about that. And then the next field that we were going to show is we created a field called DUNS number for accounts receivable and stuff to take a look at somebody's creditworthiness. There's a Duns and Bradstreet number or a DUNS number. So we had created a field for that. You can see this is just a free-form text field. We're going to go ahead and store the value. And then this is a really cool feature. If you want a field to be global searchable up here in your search bar of NetSuite, you just check this box. So we'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. Again, this applies to a customer record. From a display perspective, we'll go ahead and put this, because it's financial related, maybe we don't need to put it on the main tab. We can go ahead and put it on the financial sub tab. And then I don't know that I filled out anything else here. I think we kept everything else pretty open-ended. So that was it for that one. And then the last field that we kind of created to facilitate here today was maybe I want to know if this customer is a strategic account or not, right? So we can go back to our field that we created and let's take a look at that field. So here you can see I called it strategic account. The type is a checkbox. We'll go ahead and store the value. It applies to a customer record. And then on the display, I'm going to show this a little bit later, but we can go ahead. We create a new sub tab for additional information. A lot of times when people are customizing things in NetSuite, they just dump everything on the main tab. And that's when you start to get into a situation where everything just looks like, why are there all these fields on the form? Well, we didn't kind of move things to different sub tabs to kind of space it out a bit, or so hiding things. You don't need to, so some of these things will show you how you can, you don't need to show everything. You don't need to dump every field on the main section of a form. And then specifically for this field, the display type, you got normal, inline text, disabled or hidden. For this one, I'm going to go with disabled, which means I don't want a user to be able to manually check or uncheck this box. I'm going to show how we can use a workflow and a criteria to determine when this checkbox gets checked. So we'll show that in a little bit. All right, so now that we've created our fields, we can go ahead and show them on the form. So if we go to create a customer record. Okay, so let's see. So some of the forms that we created, right? You see we have our sales notes field here. Again, you can see you can do you can insert tables, you can insert media, you can use your bullet points and text and bold and index. So I'll just put a bullet point here and I'll type, will meet with the customer this Wednesday. And then if you click off, let's see if it recognized it. You see there it recognized that Wednesday is spelled wrong, and it gives you a little selection so you can kind of correct your spelling right there. So I found that feature to be incredibly helpful. Again, you can do things like bold, italicize, underline. So it's a pretty cool field type that you can use if you're not using those in your NetSuite instance yet. And then the next field that we talked about was the account manager. So you can see here we have that in a field group called account management. Now, again, if we didn't put that sourcing and filtering, when you click list, it would be showing you every employee here. You could have hundreds of employees in this instance, right? But because we added that additional sourcing and filtering, it's only showing employees who have is sales rep checked on their employee record. So it kind of helps to narrow down lists, making it faster and easier to kind of fill out these forms. And then the next field that we were talking about was a DUNS number. And we said that we put that on the financial subtab. So if we come over here, here's the field, DUNS number right here. You could fill that out. And again, we made it global searchable. So if I knew my customer's DUNS number, in this case, Big Five Sporting Goods, the DUN number is AO-472-3989. Because it's a global searchable field, I can see that that references Big Five Sporting Goods and bring up the customer really easy with a global searchable field. And then our last field that we added it on the additional information subtab that we created, which we'll show in a bit. And you can see here I have the strategic account field, it's a checkbox field, but notice that because we set the setting to disabled, I can't check it here. And it's going to have to get checked some other way, which again, we'll show how we could set it with a workflow in a little bit. So that covers most of those topics that we wanted to show on adding fields, creating new fields, the different field types, kind of displaying them on the form. So let me just check to see if there's any current Q&A going on here. We have quite a few questions. We got from Anonymous, does changing fields to global search enabled and impact performance? I do not believe so. I think you'd have to try it out. And if it starts getting a little wonky, you could always go back to that field and turn it off. But I don't believe so. I'm not aware of that being an issue. And then up next from Michelle Butler, we got, if you don't go over this, I want to add a field to print out on a payment notification form. Basically, it's an email address that comes from the customer record existing. How is that done? Well, if you have your payment notification form, I don't know which form that would be here in NetSuite, but assuming that there is a form for it, you should be able to either reference the fields that are already there, or if it's a custom field that you add for that email, you should be able to get that to show up. So, Michelle, I'm not sure if that's helpful or if you have a little bit more you'd want to elaborate there. Let me see. Michelle, do you want me to take you off mute and see if you can add a little more context? If you want to type in the chat. Okay, if not, we'll just keep moving for now. But just let me know, raise your hand, Michelle, or put it in the chat if you want to discuss further. Okay. And then what happens if you check store value, but later, maybe a year later, this is from Mary Brantley, you decide to uncheck the store value. Do we lose all the previous data that was stored? No. Any record that got created with the store value means that when that record got created, it was stored. So it's not going to go away by just unchecking the box on a field. But if you unchecked it, then any new entries that get created going forward, it wouldn't store it. May want to try that out in the sandbox just to validate and confirm, Mary, but you based on what I know, you should be okay. Okay, and then Inislav, in the sourcing and filtering section, is it possible to source fields that exist on other record types, such as the sales order? Also, can the source field be a native NetSuite field, or is it limited to custom fields? So let's see if we were to create a new field. Call this test, and then we go list record. These are all the different options that are available. I believe custom fields are also, or custom list records would also be available in this dropdown, but most of these are native list records. You're talking about getting to a sales order. I don't know if you'd have to go to like transaction fields, maybe. I'm not sure how that would work specifically. I'm not seeing the fields here. So that's a good question on if you could, I don't think you could reference that, but you can kind of play around with it and see based on the different options that are available and what's showing in the list. So hopefully that helps in this law. Sometimes you got to just kind of try it out and see if you get the desired result. And I know it's probably obvious to most people, but you'd be surprised how if you are stuck or not sure, I've been able to get quite a bit of my own questions when I get stumped, just by using ChatGPT or Claude, taking a screenshot, uploading that and saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. What am I not understanding or getting? And sometimes that can help out as well. So hopefully that helps there. And then will a recording of this be sent to us after the webinar? I don't know that we're still sending out individual recording links to the webinar, but what we do is I will post a link in the chat that is a list to our library of master classes that has all of them. And you can go in there and you can watch, you can watch the recordings or download the materials for any of the classes that we have. So it will be made available, and we can put that in the chat. And then okay. So Michelle, let me see if I can figure this out. Let's see. So Michelle, I tried allowing you to talk. You may have to just unmute yourself and then hopefully you can speak. Okay. Michelle, are you able to unmute yourself? Test, test. Michelle, can you unmute yourself? Let me see if I can. Oh, I found the answer. Thanks. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Michelle. All right, so I think that answered most of the questions here. Let me just clear those out. Perfect. All right, so up next, we're going to show how we can personalize some tabs and navigation. Let me just see something here. There we go. I can see myself. All right. So next, we're going to show how we can create a field group, how we can create a new sub-tab. I'll show that workflow that we were talking about. We're going to use that to set a field on that new sub-tab that we'll create. And then we'll kind of wrap things up by showing how we could use Claude or AI to help us build an advanced PDF template and kind of play around with that. So that's what we're going to kind of show next. All right. So up next, we'll want to show if we customize our form again. Let me get back to our form. Okay. And then we can see here in field groups, there was only 3 field groups to start: your primary information, your email, phone, and address, and your classification. It was really easy to add another one. I just added another one for account management, and that's where we went ahead and referenced our account manager field. So trying to give the form a little bit of organization and structure. So that's a pretty easy thing to do, to add a field group. Then next, if we want to create a sub-tab, here's all the sub-tabs that were available. But again, we wanted to create one called additional information. So to just create your own sub-tab or add more sub-tabs, you go to, let's see, go to customization, forms, and then there's sub-tabs here. If we go ahead and bring up the list, oops, I think I did something wrong. I'm gonna try this again. Forms, sub-tabs, list. Okay, we can see our additional information sub-tab right here that we created. And if you edit it, it's pretty basic. I mean, all it is just the name of the sub-tab. So that's how you can create your own new sub-tabs there in the list. And then you can see that the type was entity, because this is going to be for a customer record, customer form. So the type we did was entity. All right, so that's pretty easy to add. And then next, we're going to show the section where we're going to use a workflow to set the field of strategic account on the customer record. So as an example, we have ChatGPT here, and basically you can see I put a simple prompt in here. I want a simple workflow that will check a checkbox if annual revenue field on the customer record in NetSuite is greater than 50 million. What workflow actions and trigger or setups do I need to accomplish this, right? Just tell me. I don't know. I kind of know what I want to do. I want to check a box if X, Y, or Z. Kind of just told it, and then it kind of gave me, well, here's how you maybe go about doing that, right? The record type, the subtypes, basically walking you through the setup. So I can now go show what the actual workflow that we created looks like. So if we go to customization workflows, you see we created this strategic account workflow. And if we go into it, it's a very basic workflow, but it gets the job done. So if we go into edit mode and we hit edit on the workflow, here's where you can see. So we gave the workflow a name. This is for strategic accounts. The record that it relates to is a customer record. We want this to be event-based. So on create, on view, or update of a customer record, we want the workflow to be running. And then execute as an admin. And I have it released because it's a pretty basic workflow. So it's already set to release, so we can test it out or try it out here in a sec. And then the trigger type, according to ChatGPT, said it should be before record submit. So I wasn't really quite sure which one to do, but it said go for that type of setting. And then I just that's it to basically get into the actual workflow. And then once you get a state, you just come in here. I named it. What is it going to do? It's going to check that strategic account checkbox. And we added 2 actions. So both of them are basically when to set a field value and when not to set a field value. So the first one is if the annual revenue field is greater than 50 million, then I want you to set the checkbox to true, like check it, right? If the annual revenue is less than or equal to 50 million, then I want you to false, like uncheck it, right? Or it shouldn't be checked. So to show you what one of those conditions looks like, it's actually pretty easy to set that. You just select what your field is. It was strategic account. The static value, I'm saying it's checked, but the condition up here means it's only going to be static or checked if this condition is met. And if you pop this open, you see how you kind of set it, right? You select your field on the customer record. I said, if annual revenue is greater than 50 million, that's it. If annual revenue is greater than 50 million, then go ahead and check the box. And then it's the same thing for the other action, just the opposite, right? So go ahead and now unchecked, right? This is when I don't want it to be checked. So it should not be checked when the following condition is met. And it's just the opposite. Annual revenue is less than or equal to 50 million. So just having that, we have a simple workflow going on. All right. So let's see. So we covered that. And now we can actually test this out. So if we go put in a customer record, call this test strategic account, give it a subsidiary. Okay. And then now we'll put in an annual revenue figure. I'll do 51 million. Okay. And you can see if I go over to our additional information, again, that strategic account checkbox is disabled. I can't check it here, but that workflow is going to check it for us once we save this record. So let's try saving it, see if it works. Okay, so it saved the record. I come back here to additional information, and the strategic account checkbox has been automatically checked by the workflow, not by a user. So again, want to test it, then I think I could come in here and do now less than 51 million, and it should update to uncheck it automatically. So let's do 30 million. Hopefully that works. Okay, so 30 million, come here, it's unchecked. So kind of a cool thing, pretty basic workflow. And now you're making it easier for your users rather than make your user determine, whether a box should be checked or not. Just give the workflow a criteria and let it set it and unset it for you. So a little bit of automation there to help out with data entry. And then let me just check really quick how we're doing. It looks like we have a few more questions, Q&A. So from a Misloff, how do you determine whether a requirement should be implemented using a workflow versus a suite script? What criteria or best practices do you use when deciding between the two? Well, for me personally, it's easy because I don't know how to write code. So if I'm going to try to do any automation on my own, I'm going to try to rack my brain against building it in a workflow. I will say usually workflows are more best practice because you can, if it's available, you can actually see what's going on, right? When you see a workflow, maybe I could show a more elaborate one. I don't know. Let's see. That's a basic one. Let me see if I could find something that's a little bit more elaborate. Let's see. Well, I don't know. If you have like an approval workflow and something that's a little bit more built out, is there something in here that would show? No, these are all pretty basic. But without having to go read a code and figure out what's going on, sometimes the workflow is a little bit more visual way to see what's happening and how it works. So that can also be one of the reasons for best practice. But if at the end of the day, as long as you get to the desired end result and it works reliably every time, I don't know that it really matters whether you go script or workflow. But most people would tell you best practice is you go native NetSuite. Then if you have to customize something with automation, you try to use a workflow builder first. And then if for some reason you can't do something, you can't join to multiple records, or you need a little bit more complex, solution, then most likely you're going to end up going to a script. So hopefully that helps answer the question there, Inislav. And then Devion, I create a custom transaction body field for a hyperlink and a transaction line field for a hyperlink on a journal entry. I use the link text field to remove the raw URL and show the word support. What is better to show the actual transaction number, a workflow or a script? Yeah, I don't know if I'm following that one super, super well. Devion, let me know if you want to in the chat. I can try to take you off mute and we can kind of have a quick chat on it if you want. Just chat me if you want me to go ahead and do that. Let's see. Yes. Okay, let me see if I can go ahead and do that setting here. Hold on one sec. Okay, I tried to allow you to talk, Devion. Are you able to unmute yourself? Can you hear us okay? Devion or Devin? Hmm. Doesn't look like you're muted. Not hearing you. Devin, can you try to say something? Or put in the chat if you're having technical difficulties? All right. Sorry, I don't know why. I thought I did the right setting to let you talk, but I'm not hearing anything. So we'll probably try. Maybe the third time's the charm. We'll give it, maybe somebody else will try it later in a sec. All right, I'm gonna keep moving for now then. Okay, perfect. So then the last topic that we were gonna show here, just kind of an interesting thing. Just wanted to highlight again, everybody wants to see how you can be using AI and whatnot. So one use case that I thought could be interesting is, can we use AI to help us build an advanced PDF template? Again, I'm not a programmer. I don't know how to do HTML or anything like that, but in this example, I just wanted to try to see if we could kind of use it to help us create an invoice format. So that's what we're going to show here. So what you'll see here is if I bring up Claude, okay, you can see I had two chats going that I was kind of trying this out with. So the very first one, scroll all the way to the top. Let me try. Let me try the other one. There, maybe this one. Scroll all the way up to the top. All right, so here's an example of the prompt. I said, I'm going to give you the source code to an advanced PDF template in NetSuite. I want you to update it to look like a world-class architecture firm using color and branding themes from this website. So I looked up some, architecture firm online and just as an example, and basically asked it to give me the source code that we could try out. So the way we did that is basically you can see Claude gives you what the source code should be here. So all I have to do is copy this and then go paste it into a advanced PDF template and then just try iterating with it till I get it to kind of look like what we want. So as an example, we'll go ahead and bring up the form. So if we go to customization and forms, you see we have advanced PDF templates. And then I went to invoice. So I specifically was gonna, mess around with an invoice form. The standard one here that we were using that was defaulted was this one here. So I saved as and took a copy for this class of this one here. So I'll show you this one that we edited. Okay, so once you're in this advanced PDF template, you can turn on the source code here. And then essentially all I was doing, Control A to select everything, delete. And then I would come over to our code, copy it and paste. And and then basically go try to print the invoice and see what it looks like. So let me bring up the invoice that we were using as an example. I think it was invoice, yeah, 433. So invoice 433. Go ahead and bring that up. Okay, so here's the invoice, and then because I saved the invoice with that new form that we created, that advanced PDF template, when I go to hit print, it's going to use this one. So you can see you kind of created it. I added a picture of a custom home. I told it, different things that I wanted, where to put the title. I wanted a link to the website down here in the bottom corner. I told it that, it did that. So I can quickly get to the website that we were looking at. So again, I don't know how to design any of this stuff, right? But I kind of just tweaking it. There was a lot of trial and error. I don't want you to think it was as easy as this looks, but maybe 15, 20 minutes of screwing around with this thing and telling it, nope, that's not what I meant. Nope, update this. You kind of see the different iterations that it was going through to kind of get it. And then I think this was the last one that was a little bit more refined. So you can even see here, I was like, hey, the logo at the top still looks scrunched. So, and that's the other cool thing is take pictures. Like, I was like, hey, this logo looks screwed up and I don't like this. And, this is clearly wrapping the zeros carrying down to the next row and the quantity column is not wrapped right. So again, in natural language, I just told it, hey, it looks scrunched, the bottom's messed up, do it. And it went and updated it. And I eventually got it to, again, not overly impressive, but I wouldn't have even had a chance, right? Without getting some help from AI, I would have never been able to even try to build my own invoice template. So just thought it was kind of a cool use case to demonstrate and show. And I think that's where we're at for the class. So let me go ahead and launch the third polling question here. All right, let's go for the third one. And then let me stop sharing my screen. I'll bring up the polling question here. Share screen. All right, so the third question, what business area are you in? Are you in finance and accounting, operations, sales, or IT? Overwhelmingly, it looks like we got a lot of accounting and finance folks, almost 70%. So just interesting to kind of know. That's helpful. We'll give it a little bit longer for people to go ahead and complete that polling question. And then do me a favor, we're about to get into the Q&A section where you could ask questions. It doesn't have to be just what was on this topic, anything that's top of mind on NetSuite. This is a collaborative space. We can figure it out and have a good conversation together. And we'll go ahead and do that here shortly. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and start logging them in the Q&A. And then let me get you, while we're doing that too, let me get a link to the previous master classes. See if I could bring that up real quick. Hopefully you have a LinkedIn profile.
Hello.
Hey, Devin.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're good. All right. So in the chat, I'm pasting a link to all the previous master classes, the recording and the screenshots and instructions. So you should be able to access that. If not, you could always message me on LinkedIn or send me an email. My contact info's down here at the end too. So all right, so 62% accounting finance, 9% operations, and about 30% NetSuite IT. So thanks everybody for helping collaborate there. And now we can get into some live Q&A. So if you want, you can put them in the Q&A section, and then maybe we can try to see if I could get anybody off mute. Let's see. So in this law, can the same design approach be applied to an email template? For example, could the images be hosted online so they're displayed properly when the email is sent to customers? I think that would make the emails look much more professional. Yes, you can. I think you can use email template. One cool thing that we did was we actually did a marketing campaign hooked up to an email template that would be used for the marketing campaign. And usually if you save your photos in the NetSuite file cabinet, it can reference those photos in the HTML in its loft. So yeah, I have seen that and it actually looks pretty good. So hopefully that answers the question there. Any other questions? Anybody want to put in the Q&A and then we can kind of have a chat? Okay, Laura, curious about the restrict the role by the device ID. Has anybody used this? Not sure about. I'm not familiar with that. If anybody has seen or knows what Laura's talking about, if you want to go ahead and put in the chat, or I can take you off mute. But specifically, Laura, I don't know about that. I haven't seen that yet. And then Devin, yeah, if you want to go ahead and ask your previous question, I think you can come off mute. I heard you earlier. If you want to try to come off mute again. Yep.
Can you hear me, Dean?
Yep.
Okay. So thank you. So the previous question I had pertains to we so for instance, there's a sales order, and the way our customers pay, we get a bank fee. That bank fee is taken out on the back end. We don't see it. So when we go to make the payment into the system, there's a variance, right? So create a journal entry to account for the bank fee. And then what I've done is with that journal entry, created customize the transaction body and transaction field on the journal entry to create a hyperlink. So now that hyperlink is going to associate itself with the sales order, right? So now when you click, you say, okay, this journal entry is because of this sales order. It pertains to whatever happened or the payment, right? So it showed the URL. It didn't show what the actual transaction was. So if I had a sales order SO2, it doesn't show SO2, it just shows the URL. So the only other way I could fix it was to use the link text to say this is support. So it just doesn't show the raw URL. What I'm trying to figure out is what is the best way to show the actual transaction number. So if I have sales order, go ahead.
No, I think I'm following you now a bit. Yeah, I know that I've done this before with the help of others, so it's not coming. Obviously, if I could show you, I would show you right now, but I'm pretty sure that when you create a field, if it's a transaction body field, I think you can, oh, maybe we can take a look. But I know you can have it to where you can basically create a field and then reference other transactions and transaction types, and so that the user could select which sales order that they're basically populating for that field. And then once that's been stored on that journal entry or whatever, it's usually already a clickable link. You know what I mean? Like it shows the SO number, and if they wanted to drill to it, they could drill to that actual transaction. Is that what you're talking about, Devin?
Yes, but if I'm not making I'm making the journal entry as a standalone, right? So
Yep.
this doesn't come from the payment or the actual sales order, right? So this is separate. So If
Right.
I'm doing it wrong, then there's another way to do it. But that's the way I.
Let's take a quick look. I mean, if we get stuck, we'll abandon ship and I may have to get back to you, but I feel like, let's see. So maybe if you're doing it on a journal entry, right, then I think, like you said, maybe it has to be in the line level or would it be at the body
I,
level?
I, I did it at the line level and the body. So I did it at the body and the line. So it's two.
Well,
So
just for now, let's go with body. I mean, it could be either one. And then if we went list record and then we did transaction, or let's see, sales. Okay, I would imagine transaction and then applies to sale or journal entry. Yeah, I don't know. I do know there's a way that you should be able to create a field that allows you to reference other transaction numbers. And then if you basically I think what it would allow you to do is a user could on a journal entry just start typing the SO number for it to bring it up. And then that's how you would say which sales order this journal entry is for. And then you can drill, once that's been saved on that journal entry, it is already a drillable link that will take you right to that sales order if that's what you're trying to do.
this would be so technically instead of doing this as the type as a hyperlink, I would do this as list and records and then list and records transactions.
Yeah, I think, thank you in the chat, Karen. So maybe, again, like I said, you try this out, but list record, it's a transaction. Here you could say where you're sourcing from, and you could say it's sales order. And then again, we'd have to probably finish off the setting. But I know that if you get this set up right, then when you go to your journal entry form, there'll be now like we could call this sales order, reference sales order or whatever you want to call it. And then it allows the user to tag which sales order this journal entry is for. And then it's drillable. So I think you were going about it a whole hyperlink way and then trying to change the text to be what the sales order number was and all that stuff. I believe that this would probably be a better path, but to show you, I don't know how to do it off the top of my head either. I would have to screw around with it. Unless somebody else in the class is pretty clear and wants to kind of walk us through that part. Karen, it seems like you're on the right track. Are you following along? You're right. Yeah. So I
Okay.
think that would be probably directionally correct, Devin, to try that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Hope that helps. Thanks for coming off mute too. All right, great question. Going to go ahead and clear that one. We'll go ahead and clear Devin's question. Can you do a master class about NetSuite CRM and marketing campaigns? Great idea. Yeah, I'll try to take a note of that. I don't know if we've done one on native CRM and definitely not on marketing campaigns, but we can look to do that for sure. Okay, and then Sadansu, this session is wonderful. Apart from my question is right now, I'm into accounting and finance. Can I change my career into NetSuite and IT? In which field can I learn and grow more? Okay. There's a lot to uncover there and unpack there, but if you want to message me on LinkedIn, Sadansu, I'd be happy to have a chat with you and can kind of give you some more pointers there if you're really interested for sure. And then in Islof, can you do a class on NetSuite AI native functionality? Yeah, we've tried to show what's kind of around. I think a lot of it's up in the air right now with what's going to be coming with NetSuite next and Ask Oracle. Most of that should start being available in your next release preview. So I think I'm going to probably hold till that because a lot of it right now it's still a little clunky and kludgy. I forget where it is. We've set up some prompts before and stuff like these AI companion tools. They have a AI companion library that can give you some prompts that will work within Claude. So like if I wanted to give Claude some period over period comparison prompt, you see you have the option to send it right to Claude and it will literally launch my Claude with that prompt and I could just run it. So there's things like but that's not native NetSuite, right? That's a prompt that you can send from NetSuite to Claude to kind of try to help with that. And then somewhere in here, let's see, where was it? Forget. There is a native AI path. We did do a class on it a while back. But again, a lot of this is going to get streamlined and simplified. Here, it might be under customization. Just trying to remember where I could show company. Here, AI preferences. So AI preferences in Prompt Studio. So for instance, I think we've screwed around and created a prompt before. So this is not as user friendly as Claude, right? You can see like let's see where is text enhanced prompts? See if I can get to yeah. So here's an example of a prompt. Rather than do it in Claude, we tried to do it directly in NetSuite's LLM, and it's not that easy. You have to kind of know what the different variables are and how to set it up, and but you can kind of preview it here and kind of mess around with it. So you could generate a preview to see what that prompt is doing. But again, a lot of this stuff is going to get streamlined and a lot more user friendly. This was just kind of like what's available right now if you want to kind of like do some brain damage and try to figure it out. But I think I think NetSuite Next and Ask Oracle is going to be hopefully where it's at. So I would probably kind of see what's going to happen there in the next month or two. And we definitely, as soon as we have more on it, we'll definitely host a class on NetSuite Next and try to keep people ahead of that curve in this lab. Perfect. Oh, I appreciate that, guys. We're pretty much just a little over the hour mark here. What I'm going to do, I'll hang around for a few more minutes. If there's any other questions that anybody else wants to ask, we love to engage here and get your thoughts, feedback, questions, kind of the favorite part of the class. Again, it doesn't even have to be on the topic that we showed today. So go ahead and put some more questions in the Q&A if you want. But in the meantime, I will launch our survey. That's the last thing you need to complete if you did want CPE credit for today's class. So let me go ahead and do that now. Okay, so we just launched the survey. If you could help us fill that out, it definitely helps us improve and get better and keep doing these monthly courses. Are you guys able to see the survey or the poll? Okay. Interesting. I can't really tell that if you guys are filling it out or not. So hopefully, as long as you're able to access it and fill it out, that's great. And then again, while we're waiting and that's up, any other questions anybody want to ask? Let's see, we got a few more. Can you do it? Oh, yeah, we already covered that one. And this loft, can you show the Claude prompts again where they're located? Sure. So I think it was under setup, AI companion tools, and there's this AI companion library. And then when you open that up, you can see there's over 100 prompts that they have out here. You can try searching by role. So maybe I want to look at a CFO role. Maybe that filters it down a little bit more to be, profit stuff and cash flow and things like that. If I try a different role, maybe a project manager, nothing there, I guess. But you can play around by role or filter by industry, by category. So maybe order to cash and whatnot. So yeah, you can try these out and see if they're helpful or not. Did you get that? Okay, Anislav? Perfect. Okay, great. Any other questions, anybody? Anything else you want to maybe talk through or see here? Shelby raised her hand. Let me, was that on accident? Let me see, hold on. All right. Hold on one sec, Shelby. Trying to figure this out. Give me one sec. Uh, oh, okay. Oh, he was gone. Shelby, I went ahead and allow you to talk if you want to come off mute.
All right, I don't have this fully worked out in my head, but I'm going to be working on a project soon where today we have external folks filling out a spreadsheet of items that would go into like a sales order. They don't have licenses for NetSuite as of today, and this would be literally the only thing they're doing. So I'm kind of trying to avoid having a lot of extra licenses that we need to buy.
Uh-huh.
I'm curious about if there's a smart way to do like an external form for them to fill this out and it auto integrates into NetSuite for us to review the sales order and approve it, or if there's some suggestions you would have for a direction I should take this. Today we're taking the Excel spreadsheet and just doing an import, which is fine. It's just we're trying to kind of create some efficiencies here as well. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I see. It's a good question. I think it does come up quite a bit. I think it depends on your technical capabilities or access to technical capabilities. I mean, if you have a solid developer, I mean, they can build any type of web form and then obviously integrate it with NetSuite, but that, may be a little bit more complex and you have to have that skill set. There is a way to create custom forms and turn them into online forms. Um, so, I mean, there is, I think, a way to do that. Like, I think I've seen where I covered that in one class before. Let me see if I can find something that may kind of demonstrate the idea at least, Shelby. Let me see. So I think it created a custom transaction before. So like test purchase, right? And then I think when you're in this custom transaction, if you go to forms, you can create like an online form natively. There's a way to do that. And then here, let me see. Or I don't recall if it was a custom record that then we turned into it, but I'll send you a link to where we showed basically how we took an online form to capture the info, and then it created it in NetSuite, and we used a workflow to take the data from that form and then turn it into something. So
Okay.
you should be able there might be a way to do it without having to go fully like, outside the system and custom development and stuff. But it's gonna be probably hinged around using online forms. Like, let me see if
And that form would be, so it's kind of like a NetSuite hosted form, so anybody could fill out with a website based off of a NetSuite website potentially.
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Like, I forget, I need to take a look here. I don't know if this was just for customers, but yeah, we did a class on it and it was actually pretty interesting. Like if you pop the link, right? This is like how you could
Yeah.
literally create a vendor. And then from here, we then had a workflow that went and picked up this record and turned it into an actual vendor once it was approved.
Okay, that's kind of where my brain was going, so that would be a great class to watch.
Yeah, let me try to make a note of it, or if you want to message me on LinkedIn just in case I forget, there's a lot of stuff
Okay.
going on. But yeah, I'd be happy to connect with me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message, and then I'll be able to get you something. Again, it may not be your exact use case, but there may be
Right.
enough concepts there that can be redeployed how you want.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shelby. Great question. Cool. Anything else, you guys? Otherwise, I'm gonna probably look to wrap it here on a Friday, but really appreciate everybody who joined. We love doing these classes. We love kind of getting everybody together and trying to like really push our knowledge and learn together and safe space, right? I know some people are shy, don't want to speak up, but really it's for everybody and it helps us too. NetSuite's a big ecosystem and you don't know everything. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time and I still learning new stuff every time I do one of these classes. So really appreciate it. And I think on that note, we'll look to wrap, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And then again, we post these pretty quickly, probably next week or so. We'll get a post out for what the August class will be. So if you follow me or Scale North on LinkedIn, then you'll make sure that you're seeing the registration link so that you can continue to hopefully come and support us and have a great session and continue doing this. So thanks everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye.